Hello and welcome to another edition of the Door 14 Hockey Podcast. I'm your host Marty alongside John.
Hello.
Hello. Just the two of us again. This is a regular thing.
It is.
I think Aaron is on the injury reserve. I think he said something about looking like Batman today and couldn't move his neck or something.
Yep.
And Dave's on dad duty. So hopefully both of them will be back in the next show in 2 weeks' time. Be good to catch up with them. John, how are you doing?
I'm good. We had a little bit of a hiatus there. Halloween slightly got in the way of the podcast a little bit, so we're back and regular programming will be resumed. I will admit that I've also been incredibly lax with keeping up with the socials over that sort of 2-3 week period. The TikToks have definitely taken a little back step, but look, I'll get back on it. We'll be rolling in the followers like we have been recently. Even without putting anything out, we still added followers this week. So honestly, people just love what I'm putting out there, even when I'm not
Clear,
putting stuff out there.
Clearly, that's it. Yeah, as you say, we had a short break. I think between a mix of yeah, as you say, Halloween was there, and then after Halloween, I think we all ended up having something on that we couldn't change, or there's just something happened. So we ended up taking a bit of an extended break. So we took basically a full. I feel like a full month anyway off. I think the last podcast was at least 4 weeks ago. So if we feel a bit rusty today, apologies, but we'll get back on the horse,
How are you?
as they say.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm good. Bit of a break, as you said there. I'm dealing with a little sick little baby at the moment in the house, so our sleeping has been a bit,
No.
but it's fine. It's all good. Hopefully it's a this too shall pass, as they say, and hopefully be right as rain and back to his normal merry self soon. Um, it's an experience, I suppose, that all these new first things that you do as a parent, and yeah, it's definitely one of those ones when you see him kind of a bit sad and just like no, like just feeling a bit sorry for myself. You're just like, I understand, completely understand. Um,
Like a Steelers fan.
yes, exactly, and we will talk about that in period. Did you put it into period one or period two? I don't believe. I think it was period two. I think you put it into maybe potentially. I don't know. Yeah, I thought so. I'm guessing that was just to kind of fill out the periods because yeah, it's fine.
It's a little bit thin on
Yeah,
the ground
it
this
doesn't feel
time.
like there's. Yeah, there doesn't feel like there's a lot of stories to talk about, but it'd be worth catching up. Just kind of, obviously, we've been away for a good 4 weeks, so just catching up, kind of, on the league standings, Challenge Cup, kind of as it is. And there's one story from DOP's decisions that, although maybe slightly outdated by 2 weeks, I think it's still worth us having a chat about it because it was definitely rocked the elite league world and the fan base for a short bit. So it'd be worth talking about that as well. So that's what we've got coming in this episode. If you're happy enough, John, let's get stuck in and let's look at the league standings as they currently are as of the 14th of November. So in the league, we've got the Cardiff Devils sitting top of the league there with 12 games played and 20 points. The Sheffield Steelers are in second with 8 games played and 14 points. The Coventry Blaze are in third with 10 games played, 13 points. Guildford Flames are in fourth with 10 games played and 13 points. The Belfast Giants sit in fifth with 9 games played and 11 points. The Dundee Stars are in sixth with 10 games played and 10 points. The Nottingham Panthers are in seventh, 9 games played, 8 points. Manchester Storm are in eighth with 9 games played, 6 points. Glasgow Clan in ninth, 10 games, 4 points. And the Fife Flyers are trailing and holding up the league, 11 games played and 4 points. John, let's start at the start. Let's start at the top. Let's take a look at the standings there at the top, and the Cardiff Devils obviously leading in the front with 12 games played and 20 points. Thoughts so far after about 12 games played?
Devils have looked good for those 12. They're sitting, what, 10-0-2. So they're looking pretty good. But it has to be said, here come the Steelers. They are looking good. They're sitting 8 games played, 6-1-1. So only dropping points in a couple of games, but managing to pull out an overtime win in one of them. So getting full points there. So really only having walked away from one league game with no points yet. So I think that's a sign of things to come. We're going to talk a little bit about the Steelers in period two. Everything about that team is looking quite impressive as we sort of go through this early stage of the season. Um, do we? I'll ask you then. What do you think We've got this opportunity where it's the two of us and we get to have it as a back and forward. So Cardiff looking incredibly strong at the start of the season. What do you think? How are they shaping up? Are they looking like the team to beat, or are the Steelers, because they're that little bit behind, are they realistically the team in pole position?
I mean, it's hard to look past the Sheffield Steelers as they currently stand. As you said, John, 8 games played at 14 points, haven't only dropped about 2 points in those 8 games. That's a phenomenal stat so far. I think everyone was looking at the Sheffield Steelers coming into the season a bit like they were looking at the Belfast Giants coming into the last season. They have a point to prove in the fact that they're playing in CHL action. We're going to talk about that after, as I say, performing pretty well in the CHL. I think people were thinking, is that going to impact their domestic challenge? Is it going to their domestic performances? So far, Sheffield Steelers are sitting well in the league, and also when we look at the cup, we'll also see that Sheffield Steelers are sitting there pretty solid in the cup stage too, in the Challenge Cup. I mean, as you say, Sheffield Steelers, it's theirs the moment to. I mean, I know it's early days, but their performance speaks for itself. I mean, they are 4 games or so behind the Cardiff Devils, 14 points. I mean, it's hard to look past the fact that they're, on paper right now, obviously they're second, but, strong performances. But that's not take away from the Cardiff Devils. Cardiff Devils are performing well as well. The Cardiff Devils obviously going in this weekend to international play as well in the Continental Cup, which we'll talk about as well. But so far, so good for the Cardiff Devils. They have had a number of seasons over the last couple of seasons where they've had, I'm not saying something to prove, but they have had a bit of a wobble, shall we say, over the last at least 2-3 seasons where with coaching changes and whatever else have you, that they have to kind of maybe do something this season. And so far, it's looking good down in Cardiff Bay so far. Looking at the next set, so Coventry Blaze, Guildford Flames, 10 games played, 13 points. They're sitting in the next 2. I mean, Coventry, we've said this before, Coventry always that bogey team who start the season pretty well. And Coventry are continuing on that same trend, having performed pretty well so far this season and sitting there in 3rd place. Guildford, again, not too bad, sitting the same points. What are your thoughts? I mean, Coventry, as I say, always start off pretty well, pretty strong. Do you think they have the capacity to continue doing so?
I think they do. I think a lot of teams in the middle of the pack look very, very close this season. There's only realistically there's 1 or 2 teams who look very poor. I think, and unless something dramatic changes at the bottom, I don't really see that changing. I think realistically there's about 5-6 teams who are looking fairly solid. I think the middle of the table is going to be incredibly competitive this season. I'd like to think that with those top 2 that we talked about before, I'd like to think that there'll be one other team in the mix there. But where we're currently looking, Coventry, Guildford look good for their games so far. That being said, it's still very, very tough to get a clear picture of how things are going to look. I know that we're now, 10, 11 weeks into the season, and it sounds crazy to say that we still don't know really how teams are going to settle, but the Challenge Cup takes such a huge chunk of time at the start of the season that we really don't get to see the picture of the league until around Christmas. So we're still about 6 weeks away, really, from having an idea of roughly where we think the table might be heading as we head towards the new year and towards March, April time when the business end of the season really starts going. But we'll talk about the Challenge Cup in a second because we are almost beyond the first stage of the cup as we stand.
Yep. Exactly. And I did have a bit of a chuckle about the Challenge Cup because obviously, as you were saying, not to look ahead, but obviously you were saying that we're coming towards the end stages of that. But I did have a bit of a chuckle because obviously the Giants put out this week they advertised out ticket sales for the next stage of the Challenge Cup. And when they announced that it was February time, I was just like, I honestly just put my hands in my head and I was just like, February, like. Why? Like it shouldn't drag out, but it does. It just drags on. It just shouldn't. It shouldn't be that. It shouldn't have to wait that long. It could be done this side of Christmas. It should be done I'll leave it at that. But anyway,
Should be.
that's a different story. Looking at the Belfast Giants and the Dundee Stars, who are sitting in 5th and 6th, coming next. Belfast Giants currently looking like they're just a middle of the pack team so far, and it sounds harsh to say, but they had a bit of a speed bump there in the middle. The last one weekend coming away with no points whatsoever. 3 losses so far from those games that they've played. I mean, Belfast Giants. Is there what I suppose what for you? What's jumping out as the main issue at this time? Like what's hampering them in terms of obviously the Form Well Challenge Cup, which we'll get into, but what is it do you think that is has impacted their game their league so far for them?
The easy answer is to say injuries. So let's get that one out of the way. It would be very easy to cry wolf on injuries, but we can't discount that the injuries that the Giants have had, not just through this season, it's been a consistent issue over the last year and a half with the Giants. Pretty much since the treble, we can't keep a team healthy. After the treble, during the season with the treble, I think we probably had a handful of very short term injuries. Since then, it's just been the injury wagon, which has hampered any sort of settling of the lines. Even all the talk of the big returning names, the Conways, the Pickeniches, they haven't had time to settle into any set definitive lines. Now, I am starting to see now, I think, is it Barriga is starting to play a bit more with them, and that looks like an electric line. It looks fantastic. Yesterday in Glasgow, great result, fantastic, but problem is I'm pretty sure that was a Challenge Cup game. The biggest issue, and we say it every single week in this podcast, is the Challenge Cup. We spend far too long playing the same 3 teams over and over again. We don't, and it's great. The Challenge Cup format, the other teams in the league, the other 6 teams in the league that are in Challenge Cup Group A, look at the Belfast Giants and go, yeah, okay, we'll see you in the next round. And granted, they're right. We do get the easier run through because the Scottish teams, generally speaking, and I'm not being disparaging here about the Scottish teams, but they don't generally put up much of a fight when it comes to the top spot in that group to the Belfast Giants. Let's be totally honest. The other 6 teams, and when you think about who's in that other 6 teams, you're talking Sheffield, Cardiff, Guildford, and Coventry. Out of those 6, I mean, let's take those 4 teams alone. They're playing games against each other. Those are the other teams who are combating in the top middle and the top end of the league. They're getting to play games against those opponents. They're getting to set their stock very, very high. The Giants aren't getting that opportunity. And when we start coming up against the likes of the Cardiffs, against the Guildfords, against the Steelers, it shows, because I don't think that we have hit our stride yet. Our guys are not used to getting, I'm going to be a little bit disparaging now, the Scottish teams, real opposition. We're not getting the big, tough games, the games that the guys really need to be getting up for. When they are getting those games, they're going into it blind because we get huge roster changes every year. So these guys don't know the difference between playing Glasgow and playing Sheffield. But that's the reality of our league, is they are 2 very different games. So to me, the Challenge Cup isn't just a pain in the backside when it comes to format. It's actually a real big problem for Belfast Giants when it comes to being ready to face those big league opposition teams.
I think that's an excellent point, John. That's a great point. Can't believe I'm playing your compliment on live on air. But I think that's a great point. I haven't thought of it that way before. In terms of exactly as you say, not having the opportunity to play those bigger name teams as often as the other teams do. Probably, yeah, definitely. It's a really good point, and it's something I hadn't considered before.
Roasting hot take.
That's a great
Take it straight to the bonfire.
Just because you were speaking about Barriga, I should just mention that he is currently sitting, I think, top on goals and points overall for the league. Let me just check and see. I think I'm correct there. Yep, he is. He's current leader for points and goals for the Elite League so far. And he has performed pretty well, pretty solid so far at the start of the season. And I think for the Belfast Giants last year, obviously with having that injury so early on and leaving the Belfast Giants so early on last season, I think when he came back this season, I think there was definitely he had something to prove. And you said it last year too, and whenever he did come in from Dundee, wasn't it? He came in from Dundee last year.
Yep.
He followed over Mason. I think you'd said it, that he was a quality player. Not that again to be disparaging against Dundee, but he's a quality player, a big fish in a very small pond there, or he didn't have the right level of support, whatever it was. But this is showing like when he comes into Belfast Giants, he had something to prove, and he's doing that so far this season. He's performing really, really well. But again, he's on that line. He's changed.
Yep. Sorry. The biggest thing I said was, and I said online at the time, was about Adam Keefe being able to go out and find the diamonds in the rough in other teams. Look at the biggest example of it, Tyler Beskorowany. Should never have been playing in Edinburgh, but when he got the chance to come across to Belfast, great things happened. Yep. I said, as soon as Barriga signed last season, he will be fantastic for the Belfast Giants. Like you said, the injury took him out the season. We're now seeing what he can produce. Yep. Now, I will say it's not true in every single case. That big fish in a small pond in a small team. Kyle Osterberg, in my opinion, look at this as being another absolutely roasting hot take for a guy who's only seen him play in person twice this season so far. I don't think he's producing what we thought he would. The way that he played in Fife, the way that he was the big fish in Fife last season. Adam Keefe pulled off an absolute winner, bringing him across. It looked like an absolute no-brainer. It looked like he'd done it again. And yes, he's not the worst guy on the team. I don't think he's playing to his potential just yet. I think if he does, we start getting secondary scoring from the second and third line. Wherever he lands, we start getting scoring from there. And if that top line with Barriga and Cons and Pikanich, they start firing properly, and if we can get that one guy, that one hot guy on either the second or third line through the likes of Kyle Osterberg, then that is where we get dangerous. That's where we become an offensive team, but it has to be backed up with defense as well. And let's just take a beat here and say that maybe the Giants have been a little bit leaky at the back so far. And that's something else that needs looked at. But clearly with roster changes, it's something that's been looked at.
Yep. Let's take a quick look before we move on to the Challenge Cup. I'm not ignoring Dundee, I'm not ignoring Nottingham and Manchester. But I just want to look at the three Scottish teams. Coming into this season, our predictions at the very start of the season when we were talking about those teams, those Scottish teams, I don't think any of us had called that at this point Dundee Stars would be the leading Scottish team, sitting in the league, sitting in 6th place so far, making Glasgow and Fife look like silly, I suppose, shall we say, but Dundee really holding their own.
Dundee holding their own, Dundee getting some results maybe where you wouldn't expect them to, especially in league play. Now, what I will say is where I criticised the Challenge Cup format, specifically for the Belfast Giants, I actually think the opposite is true for the Scottish teams. I think the ability to play games against their local rivals a lot over the start of the season, for one, it helps the gate for each team. So there's available cash, and they know that they can reliably know that cash is going to be in the account when it comes to their early season signings. But it also helps them to set the bar. And realistically, if you're Dundee and you're consistently beating Fife and Glasgow, then your bar is pretty much set. Who you're starting to chase then? You're chasing the likes of Nottingham. You're chasing the likes of Manchester. You're looking for that mid-table finish. So that gets to really help them set their pace for the season. It's a big problem for the Giants, but for the Scottish teams, I think it's a massive boon being able to play those Scottish teams consistently at the start of the season.
Yep, 100%. Let's switch our attention now to the Challenge Cup. We talked about it briefly already, but let's talk about the Challenge Cup and have a quick look at the standings there. Group A, the Sheffield Steelers have already qualified in the Group A, from Group A, having sit in top place there with 9 games played and 15 points. The Nottingham Panthers are currently sitting in second with 9 games played, 13 points. The Cardiff Devils are in third with 8 games played and 9 points. The Manchester Storm are in fourth, 9 games played and 9 points. Coventry Blaze are in fifth, 7 games played and 8 points, and the Guildford Flames are in the bottom there, 10 games played, 5 points. I don't think they will be advancing. They can clearly feel confident in saying that from that point. Although I don't remember how it works with the teams and the advancing and the elimination games. Anyway, let's move on.
I know. Carry on, and I'll fill you in.
Group B, then we have the Belfast Giants have already qualified as well for the semi-final stage, having played 11 games and scoring 20 points, leading the group stages so far. The Glasgow Clan have also moved on to the elimination games, advanced to that stage. I'm sitting in second with 11 games played, 13 points. Dundee Stars, Dundee Stars are sitting in third place with 12 games played and 9 points, and the Five Flyers are in fourth with 10 games played and 5 points. So slightly different. Let's look at the Group A first. Nottingham Panthers are performing pretty well. They're obviously sitting in second place. Sheffield already qualifying, and Cardiff Devils sitting in that box area, which I think means that they're kind of sitting in that space where they will qualify if they sit within that the top 3, and then is it the bottom one team from the bottom 3 then will advance to the elimination game? Is that how it works? No.
So third place from Group A and second place from Group B will move forward to the elimination game. So first and second from Group A and first from Group B move forward. We move straight to semi-finals. So At the moment, we know that the Glasgow Clan have qualified in second in Group B. The Dundee Stars, the Five Flyers, have been eliminated. So the Glasgow Clan will play in the elimination series games before we hit the semi-final stage. At the minute, they would play the Cardiff Devils, who currently sit in that third position in Group A. So for most of the other teams, I think we are pretty much set when you look at the games and the games played and the points. I think we are fairly certain that the Nottingham Panthers will go through in second in Group A, and it's all to play for between the Cardiff Devils, the Manchester Storm, and the Coventry Blaze. Look interesting because they've played a couple of games less and currently sit on 8 points. So they could jump up to 12 points if they were to win their games in hand. They wouldn't overtake Nottingham. Nottingham have had a really good start in the Challenge Cup, so I expect them to move forward. But the only team that looks like they are out on their backsides are the Guildford Flames. It looks like they are. Well, they are. They've played 10 games. They have no chance of proceeding now at this point. So the other 3 teams in that group all have the chance to go through into that elimination game. The Dundee Stars, Five Flyers, the other teams are already eliminated, essentially. Group B is finished, essentially. There's still a couple of games to play, but the positions now can't change. The important part for the Belfast Giants is to try and win their last game, because it'll put them in pole position for the top seed, which means if they make the final, then they get the home advantage.
Yeah. Okay, that's as clear as mud, as always. So confusing.
And like you said, let's have it out. The Belfast Giants confirmed that they'd qualified. They said that, as you said, they said tickets will be available soon. February is when the next stage. 3 months' time is when the next stage of the Challenge Cup gets started. What a nonsense!
It's just so drawn out. Like it is. It doesn't need to be this drawn. It doesn't need to be that drawn out. It doesn't like. It's just the mind baffles like why. Honestly, like I titled this episode as Bamboozled, and I am bamboozled by a number of things this season or this episode, coming to this episode, and this is one of the things of 2 main ones, and this is just, it doesn't make sense. Like I just, again, we've talked about it, and it's never. I love the fact that the Elite League also said this is a change that we made to the Challenge Cup this season based on feedback that we heard from you as the fans last season. So we made the changes. Did they make the changes that made it worse? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. But it hasn't improved things. It hasn't sped things up.
It certainly didn't make it any better.
It hasn't sped things up. It just, and that's the main issue. I think it's drawn out. It needs to be looked at completely. I understand why they have an
Look,
extra.
don't get me wrong. When we correct me if I'm wrong, but when we won the treble, was the final in Belfast around Paddy's Day weekend?
It was. It always is. Yeah. Hmm.
So when you look at it in that respect, for the Belfast Giants in particular, it's fantastic because most people have got an extra day off that weekend, and it's great because you can go out, have a decent couple of drinks, and enjoy, fingers crossed, lifting a trophy. But yeah, the competition just doesn't make sense at this point.
No.
Um, we've said it time and time again. We keep hearing different ways of potentially fixing it. The league don't seem particularly interested in fixing the major concerns is that this competition takes too long. They just want to fiddle around with it enough that it makes it look like they're doing something, but actually they're not improving the product in any way whatsoever.
No.
This 100% should be a pre-Christmas trophy. It should be done, dusted, out of the way. Someone should lift a trophy and have it in the cabinet for Christmas so that they can roll it out for half the season that remains.
I agree. It should be done. It should be done by Christmas. I just don't. It should be done. Yeah, drawn out. But here, who's going to listen to us anyway? John, let's switch our attention. Let's go across the water. We'll come back to the Elite League in period one in a few minutes' time. But let's switch our attention and go across the water and look at the NHL as it currently stands. We have played about 19, 20 games. Some teams, I think we're in around that average of around about 18 games played so far this season for most teams. So let's take a quick look to see how things are shaping up coming into the second month, shall we say. That's only the second month of the NHL, but let's have a quick look and see how teams have started off this season. Starting in the eastern side of things, in the Atlantic Division, the Florida Panthers are currently sitting top with 16 games played and 23 points. The Toronto Maple Leafs are sitting in second with 18 games played at 22 points, and the Boston Bruins are sitting in third, 17 games played and 18 points. Metropolitan side of things, New Jersey Devils are sitting top with 19 games played at 24 points. The Carolina Hurricanes are in second, 15 games played at 22 points. And the Caps are in third, 15 games played, 21 points. The two wildcard spots, technically, if it was to stop today, the New York Rangers and the Ottawa Senators with first and second places there. If Aaron was here, we'd be pointing out the Philadelphia Flyers are currently sitting in 8th place there in the wildcard spots, which isn't great for them, but we'll talk about another team that's not doing great in a few minutes. Western side of the country, then, the Central Division, the Winnipeg Jets are in first with 16 games played, 30 points. Minnesota Wild, Dave would be happy if he was here, 15 games played, 23 points. And the Dallas Stars are in third with 14 games played and 18 points. Pacific, then, Vegas Golden Knights sit top with 16 games played, 22 points. The LA Kings are in second with 18 games played, 21 points. And the Vancouver Canucks are in third with 14 games played, 19 points. The two wild cards are Calgary and Colorado. Utah Hockey, I just want to mention that because obviously they're there. Technically new this season, in inverted commas, sitting in fourth place for their inaugural season as a hockey club. And the Seattle Kraken are in fifth. But John, we'll start with you. Do you want to make a comment? Sitting in 10th place, bottom of the league there at those wild spot rankings, Nashville Predators. What is going on?
Nothing good, to be honest. Player interviews are. Do you know what? I'm actually even just going to take the slides off because it just makes for bad reading if you're me or Aaron right now. Yeah, nothing good is happening in Nashville right now. I've absolutely no idea what has gone wrong. The off-season signings, getting Stammer in, looked like an absolute headline signing. It looked like the soft rebuild that we've been in since the failed attempt at the Cup. It looked like we were getting there. Now, netminding has been a problem. We had a major falling out with what was effectively our third string netminder, who's now looking like the main starter at the team that he's gone to. He just decided to, if he wasn't getting a starting slot, he was gone. Juicy Saros, I love him. Is he a Pekarini? No, he's not. Are we probably going to have to hit the market for a new starting netminder at some point? Yes. Can we convince Marc-Andre Fleury to stick around for another season? Probably not, because he's already said his goodbyes in Pittsburgh. Yeah, nothing good is happening. I'm not convinced by the new coach at all. Um, there doesn't seem to be a reaction to the losing streak that we're currently it. Now I know that we're not in a losing streak. We actually battered Utah the other night to snap a losing streak, which was fantastic to see. But it seems to be the oddity. It's not something that I expect to continue in form. I'm really worried that we're not gonna even make it as far as playoffs this season. I really don't. Um, are we playing the long game? Are we looking at just tanking the season and going for the draft? No idea. Uh, are we maybe entering the Barry Trotz reset? Maybe. Barry Trotz took over last season from David Poyley, who I want to mention as well. I didn't put it as one of the stories, but David Poyley just received his Hall of Fame ring this week or this week past, which was fantastic to see. Absolutely brilliant. He was inducted in this year's Hall of Fame class, so brilliant to see the most winningest GM in NHL history. Between the wins with Nashville and the wins that he had as GM with the Washington Capitals. So that's fantastic to see. That's the only thing that we get to be positive about as Preds fans right now. But let's swing it the other way. Marty, the Leafs are having a good start.
Well, actually, before we come to the Leafs, I was going to say just quickly, because you were talking about a losing streak, obviously in the form of the Nashville Predators. Let's talk quickly, if you don't mind, before we go on to back to the Leafs. Let's talk about the Winnipeg Jets first off. Winnipeg Jets with the fastest, I think, was I reading yesterday? It was like the fastest streak ever created in the NHL or in recent history, having only lost one game so far out of 16 games played and having a winning streak at the moment of 7 games, but it's 9-1-0 overall of the last 10 games. I mean, they've performed so well starting off this season, holding obviously that first place position in the Central Division. I mean, strong start for the Winnipeg Jets so far, having dropped very few points.
What a terrible thing to happen with a team with very boring jerseys.
Oh, harsh. I don't mind the jerseys too much. Let's have another look. You were saying about obviously the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yeah, good start. I think the most surprising thing about the Atlantic Division in overall is the fact that for the first time, I would say probably in the last, I want to say at least since pre-COVID, I'd say maybe the Boston Bruins aren't leading the Atlantic Division at this stage, which is
But
almost refreshing to see. But
Florida's
Florida,
an absolute wagon.
yeah, agreed. No.
Defending champions, like honestly, unless the likes of Winnipeg can pull something like you wouldn't be daft for putting a couple of pound behind Florida to repeat the Stanley Cup this season.
That's true. That is true. And just to come back to the Leafs, just because I think it should be mentioned, is I think a lot of Leafs fans and I think a lot of non-Leafs fans, shall we talk about as well? Obviously, given the changes coaching wise this season, I think there's a lot of discussion around what was going to happen with Toronto. But I think the fact that they have been able to continue and they're sitting in second place, you know, proving that they're kind of start continuing that form. I think just now the kind of next question will be, can they continue this form long enough? Do they have the longevity to do this and continue this form right up until, we're talking post Christmas, around about February, March time, obviously when we're coming in towards that Stanley Cup running. Time will tell and we'll see what happens there. The only other two bits I wanted to mention were, because I didn't put them into the running order for NHL, but I think I'll just quickly mention.
Is one of them a story out of Edmonton by any chance?
It is. Should we move that into NHL? Should we move it into period 2? Let's move that into period 2. We'll talk about it in period 2.
Period 2. Yeah.
And I think it would be worth mentioning as well about a certain Washington player as well, Ovechkin. There's obviously a few goals coming his direction again this year. I think it's starting to he's kind of found a wee bit of form, shall we say? And I think the
Don't
talk
chat to
again.
me. He hit a multiple point game against the Preds last week, and I think he got 3 points. I think he had a goal and 2 assists. And look, we're doing our part for the legacy. At this point, I think teams should just roll over and let him score hat tricks every game.
I mean, he's chasing history right now. He's trying to obviously be the first one to wipe out a long-standing record that has been held for such a long time by the Great One. And I mean, there was talk obviously after last season. Obviously, there was a bit of a slump, shall we say? I think people are now starting to look again and go, "Is it going to happen?" So, pretty interesting to see. I'm just currently watching in the podcast studio. I'm in, the dog's up with me, and I'm just currently watching her trying to burrow in underneath the duvet cover, which is quite interesting. Sorry, I got distracted. So if you heard noise there, scratching, it was her. It was my dog trying to get under the duvet cover. Sorry. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think there was a comment made this week of like he's now just starting to score goals again for fun, and I think that's where he lost. I think he had lost a bit of sense of his fun, and I think they were talking about whether or not it's going to happen. So we'll wait and see. But yes, we'll
Well,
come back
at this
to.
point, he's only is it 31 goals off the 894 record. So it is expected that if he has a season like he's had, then he should surpass it this season. And at which point, no doubt Anthony will want to come straight back on and talk to us all about it.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Let's call it for our pre-game ramble. And let's get
Our
stuck into
35-minute intro.
yeah, let's get stuck into our period one of hockey. Period one is a roundup of stories from around the UK. And to be fair, John, 35 minutes of an intro is fine because we've got like two stories which are going to take like 2 seconds, which we're going to move on to period two then in the next few minutes. So,
Yep.
it's fine that we had a bit of a good catch up because we haven't done it in 4 weeks. So it's worth having a bit of a catch up on everything that is the league cup and whatever else. Let's start off this period then. John, you've put the 2 stories in. We already talked about the Cardiff Devils, obviously performance in the league, but obviously we talked about, as I alluded to, the Devils are heading into Continental Cup this coming weekend. Let's talk about that, if you will.
Yeah, so they are heading this weekend to Grenoble in France. In fact, I think they're actually already there. I think the team put out on their socials either today or yesterday that they'd arrived in France. They're obviously taking that quite serious, as any elite league team should when it comes to the Continental Cup, because it is a real opportunity to lift European silverware. They will play Nomad from Kazakhstan. They will play Brulers de Loups, I think I've said that right, of France, and some Latvian team that I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce at all. There are far too many letters that don't seem to work together in that name for me to even attempt. Conti Cup, really good. Like, I have nothing but good memories of attending Conti Cup games as a Belfast Giants fan. I went to the second Germany trip out to Bremerhaven. Absolutely loved it. And then the Belfast hosting the grand final, the noise for that tying goal to take it into overtime. Marty, Conti Cup is probably up there with being our favourite competition. I would say I like it more than the CHL.
I 100% agree. I think we talk about this. I'm not saying we talk about this every year, but I know from my point of view and from a fan experience point of view, I feel the Continental Cup is a far better experience and a far more fun European tournament to be part of, because majority of the time you do decide to go away. As fans, we do decide to sometimes go away for that long weekend away to see these games being played. You've got the total of 6 games you get to go to in total. So you've got 3 games for your own team, and then you've got whatever, it's like 6 or whatever. I think maybe more than that, but you've got all these games being played, and you've got, price wise, it's always good. The locations for them were always good. And you have a big, massive support of fans heading out to this tournament, and it's always great crack.
Here's a question.
Yes.
Here's a question for you. Like, we say that we like the CHL, or sorry, we like the Conti Cup because it's a great weekend. We obviously love the format. I think that's one thing that we can agree on, is we love that tournament format. We love the 4 teams all playing over 3 days. It's great. It's fantastic.
Yep.
Do you think the Conti Cup maybe benefits from the CHL because those bigger teams are busy playing in the CHL. So teams like, with the greatest of respect, teams from the Elite League get to go and play. Now, I know we're going to talk about something in the second period, but I'm going to use this term very loosely, competitive games in Europe with a chance at silverware. So, do we think the CHL benefits the Conti Cup in that way?
I guess in some ways. I mean, is there a different level of competition in terms of, quality wise? I don't know. I just think that sometimes I think this one works. I just feel like the Conti Cup, it's because I'm not saying it's more intense, but I think it's more. I feel like it's more. The competition in it is slightly better only because I think teams seem to be a bit more closer in quality, shall we say? I'm not saying. I just feel like
Well,
sometimes when you
that's
look
what
at
I
the
mean. That's what I mean. So, is it because the top teams in those leagues are away playing CHL when it comes to the international games, like this, the European level competition?
yeah,
Is
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah. Sorry,
is that the benefit of having the CHL and the Conti Cup that exist at the same time?
I guess I guess it is. I suppose there is still an argument though that you do have teams who are playing in the Continental Cup who have played in CHL and have won CHL in the past. So I mean, you do
True.
have that argument. But yeah, it's
One
yeah. I don't really know where to go with that.
we could talk about this for ages, but one other thing I wanted to bring up because everyone knows we love a jersey. Sadly, this is the only still image of Cardiff's Conti Cup jersey that I could find, and it was on an online competition that they're doing for a fan to win a team sign one. So ignore all the black marks because those are signatures. The Devils Conti Cup jersey. What's your thoughts?
I mean, uninspiring as usual from Cardiff Devils. I mean, I don't like. I think I've talked about this before. They've had these flame variation jerseys before in the past, and I'm not a fan of these flame jersey things. I just think they look. I don't know. They just look very tacky or something. I don't like them, and that's just personal preference. I just don't like the weird like flame things coming from the bottom. Uh, they just like I don't know. Just like they kind of remind me of a bit
The
like.
Flames are not the worst. Sorry, but go on.
No, go ahead. Sorry, what were you saying?
The Flames don't bother me as much as the lopsidedness of this jersey. And
Yeah.
until this one, I didn't realize how much I really like a symmetrical jersey. And when I saw this, it was the first thing that struck me is this a home jersey or is it an away jersey or is it both?
Yeah, yeah. It's the weird red arm down one side, and it's the weird like red like shoulders down into one arm that comes down the side. It just looks so odd and strange. I get it. It doesn't look symmetrical, and your symmetrical ADHD brain probably just like it doesn't make any sense. Why is it not? Yeah, no,
It
it's not.
because it
I'm not
doesn't.
a fan.
No, definitely not a fan.
Uh, I just think it's like it kind of reminds me of I know it's not like them, but like it kind of just has this real thing of like, do you know those really like, and again, I don't mean to pick on Americans, especially if you're listening to us from Buffalo, which we know you people do listen from. Um, do you know those? Do you know the American like when you see American tourists sometimes and they're wearing like black and blue t-shirts with like graphic moons with wolves on them? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the t-shirts I'm talking about? Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, for some reason, whenever I see like flames and stuff like this, we're supposed to look realistic flames wise. I always think of those kind of tops, and it just really gives me the cringe. To be fair, um,
So
before we
is
move
your
on,
next one? You're expecting the Devils' next sort of jersey to be a mountainscape with a moon and their new logo somehow howling at the moon at the same time.
potentially, potentially. Can I just check something though? You had the group stage here, Group E, and the four teams here in Group E. Did I lift the wrong groups from the Cardiff Devils website from today?
No, the chances are I've got it wrong.
Um,
So
because
maybe this is not who they're playing.
I thought from my understanding I thought but maybe I'm wrong. Let me just check and see the date on this is correct, and it is today's information. Um, published Yeah. No, yeah, the teams that
Oh
I've
no,
got are
no, ignore this. Right, let's take this off. So that's completely wrong. That was from the IIHF website, which I took that from. That was completely wrong. So actually, they will be playing in Slovakia, not
yes.
France.
Yeah.
They will play Vilci Zelana, HC Arlan from Kazakhstan, who we know, and Rittner Baum from Italy. Sorry,
Um
completely
yeah,
wrong there.
I got confused because I wanted to make a comment about the Rittner Bomb logo, brand and logo. Um if you for me I was kind of like two of the logos are wolves, should also mention that. But the Rittner Bomb logo looks like a logo that if you went to a AI generated image search and you put in make me a logo for a hockey team based in Rittner Baum. This looks like the logo that would come up with. It just looks
Mm.
so generically like AI. It's unbelievable. I don't know. It just caught my eye. I was like, did they get an AI to create their
It
logo? But obviously not.
it does look like every, you're right, like every generic hockey logo out there. But that being said, and I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt on this, when you look at the date on their logo,
Yeah.
1928. So
Yes.
it does somewhat predate AI. So I assume they have moved with the time slightly, but I imagine that is maybe still a logo that's existed for a long time, shall we say.
Maybe then we could say that about the Cardiff Devils, who's changed their logo like what 5 times or whatever. I don't know.
Something like that.
Anyway, but yes, I did get a bit confused there, John. I didn't want to. I wanted to just mention it because I was a bit
Yeah,
like,
sorry.
no,
Good
don't read
good
the
luck
police.
in good luck in Slovakia, guys. Not in France. Yeah, good luck in Slovakia. Actually, I'll be totally honest. When it comes to Conti Cup, if it's not us, I do like to see the Elite League team take the win. So here we go, Cardiff Devils. Go and get it. Go and bring the dinner plate home.
Let's move on. One more story to do in this period, and John, you added it, so I'll let you bring it up.
Yes, so we spoke a couple of podcasts ago with Amy McLean, and they will be walking from their home in Ballymena to the SSE Arena this weekend on Saturday. They'll be walking the 31-mile route to the arena in time for the game against the Fife Flyers. That's not the only thing that's going to be happening, though. The Odyssey Trust is going to be doing some fundraising efforts in the arena on that night to help raise some money for Ethan's Duchenne muscular dystrophy. They're going to be raising money for the cause to look for a cure. They are going to be cycling. Some of the staff are going to be cycling in the foyer, I believe, around door 1, I think. I might have got that wrong. I read that earlier, but they'll be doing a bucket collection in the foyer, in the arena. So drop a couple of pound in. They'll be dressed up as well. So the Chief Executive Officer of the Odyssey Trust, Robert Fitzpatrick, and the COO, Paul McMahon, they'll be taking part on the exercise bikes and alongside some other members of Odyssey Trust, and I imagine Belfast Giants staff will also be taking part. The one person I assume who will not be taking part, as he is in this photo, is Adam Keefe, unless they're going to put him in that Spider-Man suit behind the bench on a bike for the entire game. If he did, can you imagine how much money they would raise if they did that?
It's hilarious. I do like the fact that the COO, did you say, is the other person in this photograph?
In the Captain Marvel uniform.
Yeah, yeah. I did like that.
Now,
Appreciated that.
let's bear in mind that as comic book nerds, we know that Captain Marvel was originally a man anyway. So let's not take away from the fact that that is very clearly Carol Danvers' uniform. So let's leave that. What's more interesting is that Adam is wearing the Bully Maguire Venom suit.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't know what that says about his character. But no, it's fantastic. They're raising money for Muscular Dystrophy UK to fund research. So do give on the night if you can, and we will also repost the link for the McLean's fundraiser for Ethan's bucket list as well.
Yeah.
So this is a huge cause well done to the Odyssey Trust and the Giants for getting behind this as well.
Yeah.
And just for one last time, we just want to wish Amy, her mum, and everyone taking part in the walk all the very best of luck. And we hope that Ethan as well has a fantastic night on Saturday as well. If the Giants could get a nice wee win against the Flyers as well, I think that would go a long way to helping them enjoy that night and also securing that top spot in the Challenge Cup group stage.
Exactly. We will be there. Well, I know I'll definitely be there at the game on Saturday night, so I will definitely be dropping a few pound in, and I'll be coming to say hello to Amy and the family when they arrive. Okay, that is it for period one. We have a story to talk about in the penalty box segment, so let's stuck straight into our penalty box. Okay, the penalty box is stories that are catching our attention either through DOPS decisions or hits or whatever that might be. And this is one that, as I alluded to in our intro, there was one discussion point from DOPS, a decision that was made just over, I think, nearly 2 weeks ago. I think maybe now. So I know it sounds a bit dated for now. I think it was still worth us having a chat because I really wanted to get your thoughts, and I thought the other two boys would be here too to get their thoughts on this. But let's talk about it. DOPS had made a decision following a game on Sunday. Well, I don't know what date it was now because it was Sunday night in Cardiff, Sheffield Steelers. It was Sheffield versus the Cardiff game. So I think it was the start of November. I think it was the 3rd of November. I think it was Sunday, the 3rd of November, I think was the date of the game. But it was the Cardiff Devils versus the Sheffield Steelers. And Cole Shudra was assessed a 5-minute major penalty and a game misconduct on the night for a cross check. Puck cycled down towards the back of the net by Devils forward Reid Duke. At this point, both Devils forward Tyler Bush and Steelers forward Shudra are positioned in front of the net, and as loose puck comes down the half wall to the back of the net, both players chase for a loose puck. Bush picks up the puck and skates to the corner with Shudra in pursuit to battle for the puck. As the play stalls on the wall, Shudra uses his stick to pin Bush against the wall in a illegal puck battle. However, as play goes on, Shudra delivers multiple high cross checks to Bush. This is cross checking. It's important to note that Shudra is in control of this sequence and makes the decision to deliver multiple cross checks, catching his opponent's high in the head neck area. Shudra takes it further by delivering a cross check whilst Bush is down on the ice. Effective immediately, Sheffield Steelers Cole Shudra is fined.
Brutal. Absolutely brutal. I am going to try and put this up. Apologies for having to throw up an entire window, but whenever I tried to share full screen video, it never works. It didn't work last time. This will cycle through. The cross checks are insane. It's not just one, it's not just two, it's about half a dozen, and they're all directed above the shoulders to the back of the head on the boards. The Devils player has nowhere to go in this. He is completely unaware and unwilling in all of this. To be fined is a joke. It's a complete and utter joke. Like, how they can say this is player safety is just beyond me.
I mean, he takes a beating. Like, it's proper beating. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, how many it ends up being. I mean, it's brutal. I mean, it just looks aggressive. Now, if we take if we're looking at it from a point of view of DOPS, we're just trying to be fair because the previous DOPS decision made before this one was also a cross-check decision that was made, and that cross-check.
It's not the same incident.
No, but what I'm saying
is a very different incident.
Some arguments were made that it was like, well, a cross-check. If you're going to argue it was cross-check and it was a penalty for cross-check, and then a cross-check has to follow the same rules in terms of, oh, well, he only got fined, so therefore this person got fined. It feels like that's what they did, but without looking at the context of it.
Precedent.
So bad.
If that's what they've done, that is a dangerous precedent to set. Now, we've had a couple of other ones where we've had, was it boarding calls, where we said, okay, fair play, the DOPS panel have stuck to their guns, the incidents were not the same, but were comparable, and we got some fairly similar 1 and 2 game bans. So, yeah, everything looked fine. For this one, the level of risk to the player on the boards, to the opposition player, to the Cardiff Devils player is just insane. I do not understand it at all. I don't understand how you can say that that is a fine, especially in a system where we don't know what the fines are, what they go to, and what they're used for. Like,
Yep.
it's another element of the Elite League trying to protect its image by not giving us enough information to make a judgment call on it. Now, if the fine was substantial, then it doesn't take away the fact that it should still have been at least a game ban, because it was
Yeah.
a reckless act. It was a reckless act intended to injure another player. There's no other way to say it. What was he doing? He wasn't giving him love taps. He wasn't trying to point out that he disagreed with something that happened before on the play. He was out and out trying to injure that guy and take him out of the play. There's no other way. It wasn't a hockey play. It wasn't a sportsmanlike play. It was completely unsportsmanlike and with intent to injure, because he continued it after the player went down.
Yep.
So to me, unless he's fined 5 figures and that money is going to CTE research, 50% of it to CTE research and 50% of it to some sort of player fund in the EIHL for injured players when they can't play because of stupid plays like that, putting them out of the game.
Yep.
But we don't know, so we can't say.
I mean, let's be honest. It should have at least carried, I'd say, at a minimum, at least 2 games. At least 2 games. Minimum. But as you say, John, I mean, if this was, I don't know if I'm wrong in saying this, but is Freedom of Information Act the only? Is it only a thing in Northern Ireland that you can avail of? You can ask. So why
it's only publicly available information. So to be totally, or information in the public interest. So
I suppose
there are plenty. I say this in the kindest possible way. There are plenty of lunatics in the Elite League fan base who I am sure at this point have probably already put in an FOI into the Elite League to ask, who is DOPS, where does this money go, and can you please tell me why the Challenge Cup is the way that it is.
I just want. We talk about it, and we're never going to get it. But you just want transparency when it comes to those fines, because as you say, that fine, if it was only a fine, that fine better have been a significant fine, and it better have been more than the previous fine that was taken for the last cross check, because this one is significantly worse. That was at 9. I think it's like 9 hits to his neck/head area. I mean, it's brutal.
Yeah, it's
brutal.
It's intent to injure, and it's just, I hate to say it, but it is the Department of Protecting Sheffield.
Yeah. Well, listen, let's move on. Let's move on to our period 2. I think that's the only thing we had for our penalty box segment, and it was worth mentioning because we wanted to have a chat about it. So thank you very much for that. Let's move on to our period 2, and we'll get stuck into news from across the international world of hockey. As I mentioned, period 2 is a roundup of news stories from across the pond or anywhere else that isn't the UK. Again, I think we pushed some stuff into here maybe that could have been done in period 1, but yeah, we'll stick it in here just to kind of.
We start with the easy one. So
let's start with the easy one.
The one that we talked about earlier. Let's bring it straight through right now. It's really quick. It's really simple to talk about. Connor McDavid, Mick Jesus has hit 999 points. I think it was either last night or the night before. So he is on 1,000 points watch. Correct me if I'm wrong. 1,000 points. That's the silver stick, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, no,
so
it is.
That's
yep.
The rest of the team all have to fork out the money to buy him a silver stick.
Yeah, we've seen a number of 1,000 points being hit over the last couple of seasons. I know there was 2. I think there was 2,000 point targets last year. I think one of them came from the Philadelphia Flyers. I think was one of them, and I think the other one was down around San Jose. I think was the other. So this is another player hitting that 1,000 mark. But again, another great achievement for McDavid. I mean,
oh no. Oh no! Who are they playing tonight? Who are they playing tonight?
Are they playing Nashville?
Oh no!
It's like, what's going on?
He would. So I was sorry. I was looking up a separate stat. I wanted to see who had done it the fastest. Who had hit the 1,000 the fastest? So he is going into his 659th game in the NHL. If he gets the 1,000th point tonight, that will make him the fourth fastest. I thought he'd be higher than that, to be honest, but fourth fastest behind Marty. Can you give me any of the others if you haven't already Googled it? Who do you think's the fastest? That's the easiest question.
Fastest to 1,000 points. Are we talking
Yeah.
like? Are we just talking Gretzky again?
Yeah, Gretzky. How many games do you think it took? So McDavid is going to potentially take 659. How many games do you think it took Gretzky?
Quicker than that. So
Well, clearly.
like his was ridiculous. Like he was scoring points ridiculously fast. Like, so I'm going to say it was a fraction of that. I'm going to say was it maybe like 300 and something.
No, not as bad as that. 424.
Okay.
So that's well over 2 points a game, which is mad. Next one, any ideas, or I'll just give it to you?
Give it to me.
So number 2, Mario Lemieux, 513 games, and Mike Bossy, 656. So he's just going to miss out on that third place.
Wow.
You wonder if he hadn't gone out in the playoff run last year and scored a couple of goals or set up a couple of apples, could he have beaten Mike Bossy for that third place?
Wow.
Well,
impressive.
But yeah, can't wait for Nashville to make history again.
So yeah, I mean that's potentially then tonight. Did you say that's the game?
Tonight.
Yeah.
Tonight.
So there we go. So by the time of this recording comes out tomorrow, this could be outdated because it could have already scored that point, and then.
So if you're listening to this tomorrow, congratulations, Connor McDavid, on hitting the 1,000 points. I'm very, very glad that Nashville could be part of your special night. We look forward to seeing your silver stick be delivered to you, hopefully in a return game to Nashville, where Nash will come out, snap it over his leg, and beat you around the head with it a couple of times before handing you the shattered pieces of the silver stick.
Oh, fun. One more story in period 2, and this is a story we talked about as well earlier, but this is the Sheffield Steelers having played their first of 2 games in the CHL against Iceburn Berlin. Sheffield Steelers, you know what, put up a good enough fight initially. I feel at the start of this game. Whenever you text, I think at one point you think you were in Edinburgh last night. I think you messaged the group and said Sheffield have no right to be sitting where they're sitting right now and having the scoreline as it currently is.
Yep. So I was at an event at the Scottish Parliament, not to big myself up too much here, but was trying to keep an eye, obviously, on the Giants game, and was keeping a lazy eye, if you like, on this game. And yeah, it was interesting. So through 2 periods, the Steelers, they had Berlin. Like, it felt like they should be nowhere near them. But I think the end of the second went in 3-3. Not something that I think we'd expected at all. But absolutely wild. The biggest part of it, or the biggest story of it, obviously, and the Sheffield socials, I said to you guys last night, the Sheffield socials are sorted for the next couple of days. Liam Kirk getting a couple of assists on Berlin's goals in the second period. So they'll be dining out on that until Berlin bend them over when they go to their arena in Berlin. I can only hope it's an absolute gubbin when they get there, because I'm sick and tired of having to big up the Sheffield Steelers to the point that I'm very, very close to having to just take this thing and put it on every time we talk about them and just wear a bloody Sheffield Steelers hat.
What are you doing with that on your head? Get that thing off your head. What are you doing?
Yeah, you're right. Get lost.
I did have a t-shirt I was meant to wear tonight. Let me see if I can go find it. So John, just fill the air for like 1 second.
Oh, great. So I'm going to vamp on my own in the podcast. Right, okay. I'll take you through the action in the game then. So last night in Sheffield, I believe just under 9,000 fans in attendance as well at the Utilitea Arena. Absolutely fantastic crowd numbers they got there. The first period was a quiet affair, Berlin getting the go-ahead goal through Boychuk at 18:35 in the first period to take that 1-goal lead into the first intermission. Berlin would then take a 2-goal lead through Reinke at 1 minute and 15 seconds into the second period before the Sheffield Steelers would finally get on the scorecard with Simpson at 3:53. Berlin would come back and restore their 2-goal lead through Ronning at 7:45 gone in the second until 2 goals from the Sheffield Steelers would even things out through Tremblay and Cormier, taking them into a tied third period where Berlin very quickly into that period decided, do you know what? We're going to start taking this game seriously, with Byron giving them the go-ahead goal 3 minutes and 58 seconds into the third, and then 16:36 Fordrill, I want to say, gave them the 5-3 lead that they will take back home to Berlin. Marty, you have a t-shirt.
So let's just pretend that from the start of this podcast, I was actually wearing the t-shirt I was intending to wear tonight on the podcast live. I do have a Berlin t-shirt. I've had it since 2010, nice. I think. So I was going to wear this one tonight on the podcast especially, and then I completely forgot to change into it before I came on there. So that was a joke out the window.
Let's, fingers crossed, do this for the last time, shall we? All credit to them. That's not a result to be sniffed at.
No.
I mean, if the CHL have been really taking the Sheffield Steelers to heart, they have featured so heavily in the CHL socials over the last few weeks. Again last night, because of the fact that they took that tide going into the third period, CHL socials are all over this, and let alone the buy-in from Sheffield. And I don't mean from the team, I mean from fans as well, into that team's ability to perform. Just under 9,000 in the building last night to watch that game. That's fantastic. That was a Wednesday night in Sheffield. So, Sheffield hats off. It's lying in the corner over there on the floor now. But absolutely fantastic. If this is the end of the CHL journey for them, which it probably looks like it is now, that's still something to talk about. That's a win. You're not going to lift any silverware with it, but getting through to the last 16 and performing like that in front of your home crowd, that's fantastic. Well done, guys. That's the last time I'm going to say that this season.
Yep. No, it is. But as you say, hopefully it is the last time we talk about it. Because I don't know if my heart can take congratulating them if they do the unthinkable and succeed and go into the next stage, because it would be unbearable, to be fair. Okay, let's move on. That's it for period 2. Let's get stuck into our period 3 of hockey.
Period 3 is our general Knocky news. Knocky news is for anything and everything in the world of hockey that doesn't fit neatly into period 1 or period 2, or generally speaking, where we just want to pad the podcast out a little bit and move things into this end of the podcast. That is 100% the case this time, and it's actually the biggest period that we have in the whole show. Marty, I want to start. Sorry, you look like you've got something to say. What is it?
No, I was just going to say, I think the stuff that we've got in this isn't padding out. I think this is all stuff that does belong in here. I don't think this is stuff that belongs anywhere else in the podcast. I think this is
okay.
I think
for the first time potentially ever, we have a third period, which is actually, just generally speaking, a third period. Marty, I want to start with yours because it leads really well onto another story that we're going to talk about. So, NHL 25 is going to feature something for the first time.
Yes, it was announced there over this past week that the EA Sports have announced that the multi-year deal with Professional Women's Hockey League, PWHL, will bring the league's players and teams to NHL 25. The WHL will come to the NHL 25 game in December 5th with all 6 teams, including Boston Fleet, Minnesota Frost, Montreal Victory, New York Sirens, Ottawa Charge, and Toronto Scepters, all being added to the game. You'll be able to access the uniforms. They'll be part of the Play Now online versus shootout and also the seasons. Not all players' likenesses will be available straight away because of contractual issues, I believe is what I heard. But you will be able to add, they will be adding more over time. I think they're still to get some names added to paper for contracts wise to add in some of the likeness rights and stuff. And I think that hasn't all happened just yet. But it's a great move forward. Obviously it's going to be a big update that's coming to the game in December time. So I mean, it's going to be great to see. It's good that they're adding this in, and it's also an opportunity then to play as part of the PWHL. So this is a big major update which will come in around the holiday period. So we look forward to that for anybody who's got it. I'm not going to lie, I haven't bought NHL 25 yet, and I don't plan to buy it yet because it does get added to the PlayStation subscription around about April time, and I wait until April and I get it as part of the subscription fee. So I've got my
to be honest, I wouldn't be buying it either because you'd have to play as the Sheffield Steelers.
That's very true.
My favorite part of this, actually, you didn't mention this, the story that you've put in. I didn't realize that you'll actually be able to compete for the Walter Cup as well as one of the PWHL teams.
Yep.
So that's obviously something that we talked about when the Walter Cup itself and the actual trophy was unveiled. So you will be able to compete for it, and your team could lift the Walter Cup, which is fantastic. So another stride forward. As a girl dad, this is something I'm really, really pleased to see. I'm pleased to see the mainstream bringing in the women's game on the same level as the men's game. So it's fantastic. Marty,
should also just mention as well that the NHL, as part of the NHL update, secondary to the whole introduction of the PWHL, is that they will be introducing the Four Nations Face-Off tournament, which is happening in 2025. They're adding in the nations uniforms and a variety of modes to basically to show the kind of the mirror the Four Nations Face-Off tournament, and I think that update is also coming around about the same time, so it's likely to go live around about the same time as the PWHL as well. Sorry,
I forget. Have we covered the Four Nations jerseys since they were unveiled?
We did, I believe so. I think we did go through them. I think so. If not, we'll talk about it closer that we can do it again.
We'll double check. We'll go back and double check, and if we haven't, we'll bring it in for the next podcast.
Or we'll just bring it in.
Talking of jerseys.
Yep.
Oh yeah, or that. Talking of jerseys, we've just finished talking about the PWHL. Obviously, last season, the PWHL jerseys, we talked about them at the time, were somewhat underwhelming. They were simply had the city names spread across them. However, we knew that going into this season, we would start to see the new branding come out because we got the team names, as you just listed them out there. We got those out. Now we have the new jerseys. So let's have a look through them. Now we have home and away to go through for all of these, Marty. So let's take them. I've got them split into the home jerseys first, then the away jerseys. So on screen here, in the bottom left, we have the Montreal Victory. In the top, we have the Boston Fleet. And on the bottom right, we have the Minnesota Frost. So these are home jerseys, Marty. Any of these three jump out to you?
If you're asking me which one is my favorite and which one is my least favorite, I'm torn. I like the Victory one because it looks quite old school, throwback, vintage style looking, like jersey type style with the logo. I think it looked pretty good. I like the Boston one because of the added little waves, obviously to represent a seafaring city. The Frost one, though,
I don't like the way it sits on the jersey.
It looks like
it's coming back to that not being symmetrical. It's really, really bugging me. Now, someone's going to come at me here and say the Boston Fleet one isn't symmetrical either. I get it, but the logo's symmetrical if you cut it in the middle. Okay, so don't come at me about symmetry. The Frost one just doesn't. It looks like it's squashed.
The Frost one looks like a really bad, cheesy logo branding that they would use in like a really weird style, like old school superhero TV show, kind of back in the day. When the superhero TV shows were starting off, and they were kind of like,
It would be the logo for a Mr. Freeze cartoon, Saturday morning cartoon.
yeah, something
Yeah.
like that. I don't like it.
Yeah, I'm with you. My standout of these three is, of course, the Montreal victory. I think
Yeah,
it
it looks good.
is the standout jersey, and in fact, we're going to move on to the others, but I'll ruin it now. And I think that the victory jersey is actually one of my favorites of the all six. So let's move on. We then have the other three, so I'm going to go the other way around this time. So in the bottom right, we have the Toronto Scepters. In the middle at the top, we have the New York Sirens. And in the bottom left, we have the Ottawa Charge. One thing I will say is the Toronto Scepters jersey got a little bit of attention on social media when it was released. Marty, do you know why it got a little bit of attention?
No, I don't.
It's because that logo is incredibly similar, and I don't have a photo of it to show you, very similar to a Taylor Swift tour t-shirt from her
Oh,
current and recent tour. It looks very, very similar. So photos of Taylor Swift wearing that jersey, or sorry, wearing her tour t-shirt, were going quite viral, saying that there was potential that someone may have been inspired with this jersey. Marty, any comments on any of these?
the Ottawa one looks way too much like a Calgary one, which is kind of
Hmm.
confusing. Because it kind of looks like a Calgary Flames jersey. If you look at it from a point of view of, doesn't it? It does look like the color wise and the C. I know
Yep.
it's an O, but it looks like a C. It's a bit strange. It looks a bit too much like a Calgary jersey. So if there's like, when you think about Calgary and, when you think about the rivalry between those two teams, you kind of think to yourself, you're getting a bit close to the fact that you've got a rivalry between the men's teams.
Yeah.
That looks
You
quite
you
similar.
might say they're on thin ice with that one.
Yeah. Moving on. I think my preference one is I do like the New York one. New York, yes, New York one.
Yeah, so do I. I
It
like that
looks.
chunky NY behind the sirens.
I do they have a link with the Islanders, because it looks quite Islanders esque. Especially that NY, and I do like the NY bit, as you say. The only thing I probably would take away from that jersey that I don't really like is like it's as if like they've had layered the logo too much, and therefore they've got the S's on either side, kind of obviously.
Well, no, do you
Uh,
know? Do you know what that is? It's supposed to be the sound waves coming off the siren.
oh, I lost. I missed that. Yeah, that's not subtle. That's not. That's that. If you have to explain that, that's not really. That's not really doing the job. I have to explain that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Um. Okay, I get
So
it. That's
am I am
okay.
I to take am I to take from all of this then that we actually agree on something for once, and that is that Montreal have by far the best home jersey in the
Yeah, I agree.
PWHL.
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well done, Montreal victory. Right. Let's swing it. Let's look at the away jerseys. Let's see what they got for that. So we're back to the first three again, in a slightly different order. Again, Montreal Victory, the Minnesota Frost, and the Boston Fleet. For Minnesota, very slight difference to the logo, less jagged, and a color switch. Boston Fleet, very simple, looks to be a color switch simplified logo that looks to be sort of italicized a little bit.
Hmm.
That Montreal jersey though,
Again.
chef's kiss,
Yeah. Again, it's
chef's
beautiful.
kiss. That
Yeah.
off white. Every time the New York Rangers put out a jersey in that sort of off white, I love it. Every time,
Yeah.
it's never bad. That jersey is just beautiful.
No, I agree. 100% agree. That's even nicer. I think that one's even nicer than the other one. I genuinely believe that. I think that's a lovely jersey.
I think that might be my first PWHL jersey in my collection. Is that Montreal Victory jersey?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So if anyone knows anyone that plays for them, because they definitely listen to us, I would absolutely take a game worn. Because yeah, I definitely stand a chance of getting a game worn out of that when they're pulling crowds of like filling out the arena in Minnesota. So I stand every chance of getting that, don't I? Let's look at the other three teams. So we've got the Sirens. Looks to be a very simple color switch on the away jersey. Same with the Charge, although there's some extra accents have been added. And then the Toronto Scepters. Very, very simple. I think there's a very slight change in the logo. I'm not entirely sure what it is. I think it's just like a jeweled scepter thing that's sticking out on the T. To me, unfortunately, it looks like a pineapple. So it looks like the pineapple's slightly more connected somehow. I don't know if it's just a way the photos have been taken. But these all look very simple as a sort of color switch. Marty, any comments on these?
No, I think you're right. Just a simple color switch, inverted the colors for home and away. But again, I think the New York one stands out as the best of these three. So I definitely think it's New York, the New York jersey for both comes second. I think in both instances for me anyway.
Do you think the inclusion of a green/teal might be somewhat swaying us?
Maybe.
So yeah, those are your 2024-25 season PWHL jerseys. If you're watching the podcast on video, drop in the comments. Tell us which of those jerseys is your favourite. What one will you be dropping some cold, hard-earned cash on when they become available? Speaking, Marty, of jerseys that we would drop cold, hard cash for, we know, and we're going to talk probably in the next podcast a little bit more about this competition, but the Friendship 4 is just around the corner. What have Notre Dame gone and done?
Oh my God.
What have they done?
These things are genuinely a thing of beauty. Like, I mean...
So while you have an existential crisis, let me fill this in for people who are listening to the audio podcast. This last week, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish hockey team, who will be taking part in this year's Friendship 4, unveiled that they will not just be wearing their normal, everyday, run-of-the-mill jerseys when they come over to Belfast. They will, in fact, be wearing special, one-off, specially designed jerseys just for the competition. They are navy blue, accented with gold, and the one thing that surprised me is that they're Under Armour jerseys. I didn't see that coming, to be honest. But a lot of the detailing is just absolutely amazing. And if there was going to be a team that were going to do it and we're going to lean into the Irish heritage, it was going to be the Fighting Irish, wasn't it?
100%. I just love the little details in this. I love the little Celtic knots. I love the little detailings in the arm. So it also looks like a little Celtic design overall with the Celtic knots with the hockey sticks. I just think the whole thing is presented beautifully. And that gold, oh my God, I want it.
I know that this jersey is like very specifically designed around celebrating Irish culture and history and links that the college has with Ireland. This is an execution of a jersey that I feel that even our own Scottish teams have tried to do and have in the main failed. I will say that I think Fife have gotten it right a few times. Dundee have got it right once. Glasgow have got it right nonce. But this is what just sitting down, taking your time and planning it out, thinking what works. This is the end result. I have not seen a single negative comment about these jerseys yet. No. Either from Notre Dame students and other folk who are commenting on these, but especially from the Belfast crowd. Like, there are cries for Notre Dame to please bring merchandise with them. Yeah. Fans over here are desperate. Now, you can order them. And you shared with us that you have effectively been given permission to go ahead and purchase direct from the source. Fill us in, Marty. Are you doing it? Do you think you're going to get one? Are you going to get it in time for the Friendship 4 in 3 weeks' time?
Yeah, we're not going to get
Well,
it in time.
2.5 weeks time even.
Yeah, we're not going to get it in time because obviously they're not going to be delivered, and I don't think quick enough for that sort of thing. I don't think so. I think I will eventually get one. I think I'll buy one maybe potentially after the event. I'm one of those people you talked about that put out on social media and reached out to them and was like, please bring some because I want to buy one. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, and as you say, like it was a bit
Tell
of a
me, tell me this. Tell me this.
yes,
Here's something to consider. So, imagine you're talking to the Notre Dame locker room right now, like the guys who are going to wear these jerseys. Okay, you, Dave, Aaron, and I own substantial collections of Belfast Giants jerseys in particular. What one in your collection would you offer up to one of these players as a keepsake to take home with them in exchange for their game used Friendship 4 Fighting Irish jerseys?
I see. The thing is, I don't think I have any really impressive, like, I don't think I have any really impressive game worn ones that are like big names or
Okay,
anything
let
like
me rephrase that. If the four of us had the opportunity to go through Dave's collection of jerseys,
that.
what jersey of Dave's? I know which one I would give them. I'd give them the error print jersey, the stuff that's mirrored, or I'd give them the ripped up Keith jersey.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. I do have like one of the original ties jerseys from back when we first brought in the ties jerseys, the
Yeah.
teal ones. And I do love that jersey. It's my favorite jersey of all time. I would give that up for one of these, obviously easy enough. But yeah, I don't really have anything else that would be as interesting, I don't think, for them. Unless I want a season one jersey, but it's not a game worn. Um I have
Would
a Movember jersey, which I do have a Notre Dame
would
jersey.
I be in trouble if I said that I would potentially part with that?
Yeah, no, I think it's fine. I think they would want something more though. But I mean, these jerseys, man, they're amazing. I really want one.
Do you feel, and we'll talk about it more in the next podcast, but do you feel slightly bad for the other three teams coming this season, knowing that they have absolutely no support?
Yeah, exactly.
Can
Yeah,
I be possibly the only person on the planet to level one item of criticism at these jerseys? I would have liked the little fighting leprechaun to be somewhere on that jersey.
yeah,
Like just even on the back collar or something. When I think of Notre Dame, when I think of the Fighting Irish, I think of the logo that you have on the jersey that you have.
yeah.
The
I'm just
fighting
looking at it at the
leprechaun.
moment. Yeah, yeah.
That to me is the one element that's missing.
I don't think it is. I don't think it's needed. I think it's. I don't think they need to go down
I
that
get
route. I think.
Look, I'm a certain kind of person. I get this is a classy jersey. I'm not a classy broad. All right, I want my fighting leprechaun on my jersey. Okay.
But yeah, this thing is just. I mean, as you say, like, I give it to them. Like, this is genuinely. This is all the marks. This is perfect. I think this is as perfect as a jersey can be. As you say, Fife have tried something to kind of create like something very Scottish, and they're really good. Like last year's jerseys were phenomenal, and I'll stand by that. Their tartan stuff last year was just amazing, and I'll still agree. And I thought up until I seen these jerseys, I thought Fife had probably one of the most beautiful, like heritage style kind of cultural jerseys that looks beautiful. And I thought Fife had it right. And Fife were basically the best one I've seen so far. But this is just, yeah, this is beautiful. This is I want it. I'm getting it. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it at some point.
Marty, we've only got one more jersey to look at and one more story for the entire podcast.
Yep.
And this is the Nottingham Panthers have released their Hockey Fights Cancer Night jerseys that they will wear on Saturday, the 23rd of November, in a game against the Belfast Giants. The purple jerseys will be raffled off to raise funds for the Nottingham Hospital's charity oncology ward. The Hogarth ward is located at the city's hospital and specialises in care of 19 to 24-year-olds who are undergoing treatment for cancer. The tickets will be £1 each, and the raffle will be online. And 100% of the profits will go to the Nottingham Hospital's charity oncology ward. Marty, this is a great call. We say it every single year when teams do this, whether it's in the NHL, the Elite League, the EIHL, wherever it happens to be. Great cause. An already decent Nottingham Panthers jersey made all the better because it's for a fantastic cause.
Yeah, and there's not really much more to say apart from that. I mean, it's a great cause. You can't really criticize it and what it looks like because you don't for causes like this. You don't. And it does exactly it's exactly what you'd expect from a cancer fights hockey fights cancer jersey. We see them right across the NHL everywhere does these, and I like the fact they've used the branding on the back of the jersey. And yeah, I think it's perfect, and I think it's great that that they've been transparent enough, and they've said that all the money from this will be going to it'll be going to the charity. So that's always a bonus because I know there's always been conversations in the past about players being or teams being transparent about where money goes. And so I think this is just great that Panthers have clearly stated, all 100% of this will be going to a very worthy charity.
Yep. And just to point out as well, the vast majority of the jerseys that will be on the raffle will be game worns. They have said that some of them will be game prepared and game issued for players that don't ice on the night. And they are also taking orders for replicas and custom replicas as well in the lead up to the game as well. So they can be purchased online on the Panthers shop.
And that is us, I think, for our content for this week. That just leaves us just then to sign off as we always do. First off, thank you very much for listening to the podcast, but also thank you very much for you joined us live on our YouTube channel. If you are listening to this as a standard podcast, you can watch us back on our YouTube channel on YouTube at Door 14 Hockey. We're on all social media outlets, so Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok at Door 14 Hockey. Check out this podcast and all the other podcasts that we've done on our website, door14hockey.com. And we also lastly then just ask, if you are listening to us as a standard, as usual, old school podcast, don't forget to like and leave us a comment or a review or whatever your podcast provider of choice offers as a way of reviewing your podcast. Please do so because it does help us in the long run. That is it for this week. Only thing left to do is to sign off. I'm Marty.
I'm John.
Have a great week.